Hello and welcome. It's 10 a.m. on Tuesday, the 30th of September. You're tuned in to our mid-morning newscast here on ARIRANG TV. It's wonderful to have you with us. I'm Mark Broome. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. Expectations are growing that Korea's two main rival parties and the families of the victims of April's ferry disaster can agree on a bill aimed at uncovering the truth about the sinking. The protracted delay has held up parliamentary activity for months. Korea's industrial output contracted at the sharpest pace in nearly 6 years in August, raising concerns the economic recovery could be running out of steam. Plus, in Hong Kong, pro-democracy demonstrators test the limits of the authorities' patience as they continue to shut down the centre of one of the world's largest financial hubs. The floor leaders of the nation's rival parties and the representatives of the Seoul ferry sinking victims will meet again on this Tuesday morning for talks over the details of a special law that will investigate the disaster. In talks that were held on Monday, Park Young-sun of the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy proposed an additional clause to the bill that would give the victims' families a greater say in selecting candidates to lead the investigation than they had before. To this, the ruling party responded positively, in fact, raising hopes an agreement could be reached today and hopefully break months of political deadlock we've seen in the country. The meeting, which starts at 11 a.m. in just under an hour's time, comes just before the ruling party opens a plenary session at the National Assembly, where they're going to vote on a string of pending bills that have been collecting dust. It remains unclear whether the main opposition party will attend. The US Special Envoy for North Korea policy has strongly criticised Pyongyang for not making any attempt to meet its obligations on denuclearization. Speaking to reporters in Beijing on Monday after meeting his Chinese counterpart Huawei, Glyn Davies said Washington and Beijing firmly agree on the importance of a nuclear-free Korean peninsula. Now, Davies is currently on a three-nation tour of the region for talks on the North's nuclear program. He's actually due in Seoul later today, and then he'll travel to Tokyo on Wednesday. North Korea's Foreign Minister Lee Soo-yong will embark on a 10-day visit to Russia on Tuesday. Moscow's foreign ministry says Lee will meet with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov and discuss the situation on the Korean peninsula. They'll also talk about ways to strengthen bilateral economic cooperation and joint efforts to boost trade. Discussions on resuming the multilateral talks on North Korea's denuclearization, also known as the six-party talks, are also high on the agenda. The North Korean official is also scheduled to meet other top Russian officials and also visit Russia's Far East. The vice foreign ministers of South Korea and Japan are going to meet for talks later this week in the latest sign of their steadily warming bilateral ties. Seoul's foreign ministry says first vice foreign minister Jo Tae-yong will travel to Tokyo on Wednesday for the 13th round of strategic dialogue. Jo and his Japanese counterpart Akitaka Saiki will address a range of pending bilateral issues, including their thoughts on the situation regarding North Korea. They're also expected to discuss the details of a possible summit between their leaders. Some speculate this much-anticipated summit could take place in November on the sidelines of the APEC summit to be held in Beijing. Now, thousands of delegates from almost 200 countries from around the world are gathered in the Korean alpine city of Pyeongchang for an international convention on biodiversity. On this, our Shin Se-min reports.
Potatoes, corn, tomatoes, and beans, not so special, everyday produce. What you may not know is that you could be eating produce that comes with a twist in its genetic material. Living modified organisms, or LMOs as they are called, are living organisms that possess genetic material obtained through the use of modern biotechnology. In Korea last year, more than 8.8 million tons of LMO products were imported according to the Korea Biosafety Clearinghouse. These genetically engineered products like LMOs and GMOs may provide a possible solution to food shortages, but their effects on our ecosystems are not yet fully known. To raise awareness and create regulations for properly labeling LMO products and discuss issues related to biological diversity, nearly 20,000 delegates from over 190 nations have gathered in Pyeongchang, Gangwon-do province. The executive secretary of the convention says many countries still have long ways to go in terms of securing our food safety as they don't properly mark LMO products.
Several countries still don't have legislation on labeling, but this is an issue that the protocol promotes, so that shipments containing LMOs should be labeled accordingly. And if so, they need to have the necessary expertise to conduct such risk assessments.
The convention is also set to address a midterm evaluation on a 2011 to 2020 strategic plan for biodiversity, as well as adopting a Pyeongchang roadmap that helps to achieve UN Sustainable Development Goals. Among other agenda items, the building of a peace park inside a demilitarized zone will be a topic of discussion. Delegates will also discuss the feasibility of President Park Geun-hye's vision for the park, along with ways to get the North get engaged in its development. Shin Se-min, ARIRANG News, Pyeongchang.
Said that a team of South Korea.
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. ARIRANG News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers $15 billion. Now, in some economic news, Korea's industrial output contracted by its fastest pace in nearly 6 years in August. Now, this is a cause for concern, naturally, but we should factor in that there were nearly 5 fewer working days in August than there were in the previous month. A government agency, Statistics Korea, says production in the country's mining, manufacturing, gas and electricity industries plunged 3.8% last month compared with July. Now, this is the largest on-month drop recorded since it shrank 10.5% back in December 2008. That, of course, at the height of the global financial crisis. It isn't all totally gloomy news, though. Korean manufacturers' business sentiment for next month jumped to a 3-month high. The Bank of Korea says the index came in at 78 for October, compared with 74 for September. However, a reading below 100 does mean there are more pessimists than optimists. Korea's finance minister is calling for a new economic strategy, saying Korea needs to be more than just a fast follower in the 21st century. Choi Kyung-hwan says the Korean economy should grow on the basis of original ideas, merged with science and information technology. He added that Korea is under growing pressure from highly competitive developing economies. The minister cited the case of Chinese manufacturer Xiaomi, which overtook Samsung Electronics as the biggest smartphone vendor in China in the second quarter of this year. And some foreign manufacturers are gearing up to take on Samsung Electronics in its own backyard right here in Korea's lucrative smartphone market. One of them is China's Huawei, which is hoping to make an impression with its low-cost devices. Our Hwang Jie has the details.
Those in Korea trying to buy a new smartphone now have one more option. That is the X3 model from Chinese budget smartphone manufacturer Huawei Technologies, which hit local shelves on Tuesday. Huawei expects to lure Korean consumers with its affordably priced handsets, which are up to $400 cheaper than local brands like Samsung Electronics. Korea's smartphone market is considered difficult to break into, with most citizens loyal to Samsung and its domestic rival. Currently, the Korean tech giant controls around 60% of the local market, followed by LG Electronics. Apple, one of the world's most popular smartphone makers, holds below 10% of the local share. It's no surprise then that US-based Motorola gave up on the Korean market in 2012, while Taiwan's HTC also folded its Korean business in the same year. But it's not just Huawei that's aiming to take on the Korean smartphone market. Sony of Japan recently unveiled its high-end Xperia Z3 smartphone, which also boasts a cheaper price tag compared to local brands, pointing to even stiffer competition among local and foreign players. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
Now, a seventh round of free trade negotiations between Korea and Vietnam has begun right here in Seoul. Representatives from the two sides are meeting for 4 days, where they will discuss issues ranging from products, services and investment. The seventh round of talks come after both Korea and Vietnam expressed an interest in concluding negotiations and getting this FTA signed by the end of this year. Discussions first started around 2 years ago. Vietnam is Korea's 9th largest trading partner. Now, it always used to be the case that Japanese tourists would spend a lot more money in Korea than Korean travellers would spend when they went to Japan. But times are a-changing because the strength of the Korean currency against the yen has turned the tables quite a bit, actually, with Korean tourists enjoying much stronger purchasing power in Japan these days. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Apart from trade, the strengthening of the Korean won against the Japanese yen is affecting the spending habits of tourists. The amount of money spent by Koreans while traveling overseas is expected to surpass that of Japanese tourists for the first time this year. This means Japanese tourists are spending less in Korea, while Koreans are buying more goods and services in Japan. Koreans spent an all-time high of $21.7 billion overseas last year, after recording a steady increase since 2009. The amount spent by the Japanese tourists last year was just $100 million higher. The Korea Culture and Tourism Institute says Koreans are taking advantage of the falling value of the Japanese yen against the Korean won, making it relatively cheaper for Koreans to buy Japanese goods than before. The current exchange rate hovers at around 951 to 100 yen, the lowest it's been since 2008. Traditionally, expenditures from Japanese tourists have been higher than their Korean counterparts, which is understandable given that Japan's gross domestic product is 4 times higher than Korea's, and that its population is more than 2 times greater. So will this trend continue over the long term? An analyst from IM Investment and Securities doesn't think so.
The Bank of Korea is expected to lower the country's main benchmark rate in the coming months. This, coupled with Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan's expansionary policies, will help to lower the value of the Korean currency by the end of this year.
The Bank of Korea lowered its interest rate by 25 basis points in August, ending a 15-month freeze. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, starting next month, about 1.3 million small and medium-sized businesses here in Korea will be exempt from tax investigations until the end of 2015. The National Tax Service says the move is aimed at creating an environment where taxpayers can focus on their businesses by getting rid of operation uncertainties, and this is hopefully going to revive the economy. The exemption applies to businesses with less than $95 million in annual sales that are struggling in the current climate due to the economic stagnation we're feeling. Also included are those in the future growth engine industry, cultural contents and knowledge industry, or those areas known to be creating lots of jobs. Now, a growing number of older Koreans appear to be breaking away from the long-held beliefs about marriage, divorce and death. A report by Statistics Korea says about 47% of those Koreans aged between 50 and 64 who took this survey said they wanted to be cremated after they die, which is nearly 3 times higher than those who want to be buried. The group, which includes baby boomers, were more progressive about marriage and divorce. More than 26% said that marriage was not a must these days, and nearly 42% were not completely opposed to the idea of divorce, which is in sharp contrast to the 75% of their elders who said divorce is not something they find acceptable. Time now for a look through the international headlines we're following on this Tuesday morning. For that, we turn to Eunice Kim, standing by at the News Centre. Good morning, Eunice.
Good morning, Mark.
So a second night of massive pro-democracy sit-ins in Hong Kong is behind us now, and it was a lot more peaceful this time around.
That's right. The sit-ins actually became vastly more peaceful later Monday as both demonstrators and authorities called for calm. Much of the police withdrew in the afternoon. Nonetheless, many of the demonstrators slept in plastic ponchos and goggles this night, just in case the aggressive events of Sunday night repeated itself. Now, this morning, many have woken up, cleaned up their litter, and left with the promise to return. Others continue their act of civil disobedience, jamming roads in central Hong Kong, as well as the shopping district of Causeway Bay to the east and Kowloon's Mong Kok across the harbor. Now on Monday, some schools, businesses and bank branches were closed as the city's Hang Seng Index dropped by 1.9% during the trading day. The Hong Kong government canceled its annual fireworks show celebrating China's National Day, which was to happen tomorrow, citing safety concerns. Residents in the Syrian city of Kobani say they are terrified as Islamic State militants continue to make gains toward the border region with Turkey. The London-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the jihadist group was as close as 3 kilometers away from the mostly Kurdish city, and if they are successful, IS would gain a full stretch of land from the Turkish border to the group's declared capital of Raqqa, some 100 kilometers away. Eyewitnesses said the coalition airstrikes were just too few and too far back from the front lines. This as a U.S. think tank analysis released an estimate on Monday that American military efforts against IS could cost between $2.4 billion and $22 billion per year. 5 more unconscious hikers were found near the peak of Japan's Mount Ontake on Monday, pushing the total number of people feared dead to 36. This as search efforts to locate those unaccounted for were suspended after toxic gas was found to be spewing out of the volcano in central Japan, putting rescuers in danger. The country's seismologists have been warning that Mount Ontake could erupt again in the next few days. Several family members in Japan are desperately waiting word on their missing loved ones, as survivors spoke of their harrowing experience. Japan's second tallest volcano erupted without warning just before noon on Saturday, catching many hikers who were enjoying the autumn foliage on the peak off guard. Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates has once again topped a Forbes magazine's rich list with an estimated net worth of some $81 billion. That makes it the 21st consecutive year that the philanthropist has come in first in the magazine's 400 richest people in America list. Forbes said Gates added $9 billion to his net worth this past year, in part thanks to a growth in his Microsoft shares as well as his other investments. The American Business magazine also praised the 58-year-old for his humanitarian work. Earlier this month, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation pledged $50 million to fight the Ebola epidemic in West Africa, the single largest donation the foundation has committed to a cause.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we continue on with our 2014 Incheon Asian Games coverage, starting off in tennis. Now on Monday, South Korea added another gold medal when the duo of Chungyeon and Lee Myung-gyu won the men's tennis doubles. And quite a battle between the South Korean duo and India's Sanam Singh and Saket Menneni as the two pairs go back and forth in the match. But in the end, Chungyeon and Lee Myung-gyu prevails with a 2-0 victory, 7-5, 7-6-2, winning Korea's first gold medal in the event in 28 years. And now shifting over to the men's 200-meter single kayak event, where another gold medal was claimed by a South Korean athlete. After South Korea saw some success over in the sculls event, this time in Cho Kwang-hee over in the 200-meter single kayak event, as he finishes first with a final time of 35.464 seconds, being the runner-up by more than a second. Now, the gold medal finish also gives Korea their first gold medal in the sport in 24 years when Chun In-sik won triple gold with the 1,000-meter single, two-person 500-meter, and the two-person 1,000-meter event during the 1990 Beijing Asian Games. Now, we've seen some surprise gold medal finishes from Korea, but a surprise silver medal isn't bad neither, right? Well, the country did win a surprise silver on Monday over in the men's 10-meter synchro platform. Now, having only won bronze medals in the event, a surprise silver medal from Korea as Kim Young-nam and Woo Ha-ram finished the final with 403.50 points, giving the nation their first ever silver medal in the event. Now, it's the best finish in Korean diving since the 2002 Busan Asian Games when South Korea won silver in the men's synchronized 3-meter springboard event. And now shifting over to women's football tournament where the two Koreas clashed during the semifinals on Monday night. And what a match this was, with the winner heading to the final as South Korea's Chung Seo-bin scores on a Ronaldo-esque free kick in the 11th minute, giving South Korea the 1-0 lead. But the 35th minute, Lee Ye-kyung scores the equalizer as the two sides go into the half with a goal each. Now, second half, both sides neck and neck, and with 3 minutes added on to the injury time, North Korea's Chung Yoo-ri scores on the 90+3 mark, giving North Korea the 2-1 victory as South Korea fails to advance to their first Asian Games final. Now, South Korea added 4 bronze medals in the freestyle wrestling events on Monday night, with Iran dominating the sport. So before I say goodbye, let's take a look at the current medal standings at the Incheon Asian Games, and I'll see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning. What a dramatic change in weather in just a couple of days. It's breezy this morning, but chilly. Current temperatures downtown in Seoul is still in the mid-teens, but AM fog is burning off and skies should turn to mostly to partly sunny, and highs will be slightly warmer than yesterday across the nation. So let's take a closer look at today's temperatures. Now, daytime high in the capital and Daegu will only rise to 23, while Gwangju and Busan will peak at 27 and 24 respectively. Now, for other regions, it looks like down on Jeju Island and Daejeon should see highs of 24, while Dokdo peaks at 17 and Mount Keungang tops out at 8. Now, Incheon, the host city of Asian Games, will also have a typical autumn weather under mostly to partly sunny skies, and highs will be peaking to 22, which is slightly cooler than here in the capital. And mid to low 20s will be the average top temperature for here in Seoul this week under mostly to partly sunny skies, but we do have rain in the forecast on Thursday. Also, we need to notice a much cooler morning low, so I guess it is time for us to store light clothes and take the heavy ones out from the wardrobe. Now, that's all for Korea, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's going to do it from us for now, at least. Korea Today is coming up at the top of the hour with plenty more news. Have a great day. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.